believing him, and if they did good and didn't do any sin, they would get resurrected too.
Mm-hmm. That's decent.
Yeah. Ain't say
that part, right?
Yeah, ain't say nothing wrong there.
Yeah.
All right. So what was the first question? What were we talking about with you first?
Polar bear.
Paul? Oh yeah, no, Paul. No, Paul definitely don't look like no darn Steve Nash. That's for sure.
Who is Steve Nash?
It's a basketball player, white boy.
Old basketball player.
All right. And then your question. What was your question?
If we're not Christians.
Speak up.
If we're not Christians.
If we're not Christians.
What are we?
What are we? That is the question. That is the question. Give me John chapter 8.
Now that, detective, is the right question.
What I want, John chapter 8, verse 34. I just posted on Facebook. I feel like 44. I should remember it. 34, I think. John chapter 8, verse 34.
Verse 34.
Because the question is, if we are not Christians, what in the world are we? It's John chapter 8, verse 34.
And then I learned about like 14 different Christianities or something. Right?
That's not it?
It's we can go John 8 and 30.
Yeah, it's John chapter 8, verse 30.
You said 13 different Christianities, what'd you say?
And I also learned about the New Testament and the Old Testament.
Well, TJ said he had 13 different Christianities.
There's more than 13 of them. I'll say that.
In the New Testament and the Old Testament.
Everybody got their own personal Christianity. You know what I'm talking about?
The New Testament was talking about God, and the Old Testament they copied off of and took it into the New Testament.
What?
That's what we did.
Told why don't?
I said that's what we read.
I know, but we learn about the New Testament, Old Testament here, right? Okay, so when they get to telling you about the New Testament, Old Testament, you compare it to what you've read and what you've seen in this book.
I didn't want to say anything though.
That's all right. Why not? Because what?
See, I don't know. It's uncomfortable.
Why?
Because it is.
Talking in front of the class, period, is just weird. Or I don't like reading in front of
And saying your religion when probably no one knows about it.
Who cares?
What do you mean, who cares? Anaka doesn't like it either.
Just think about that. Just think about it, right? Think about why. Like, why? Who cares? Who cares if they don't know about it? Who cares if they don't believe what you believe? Do they care if you believe what they believe?
Sometimes. Because
when was the last time they came up to you and they was like, please believe what I believe?
No, they didn't say that, but they're like, why don't you do Easter? Yeah.
No, they want to know why you don't believe what they believe. That's different, right? When have they wanted you to believe what they believe? When have they came up to you and they were concerned, they was like, listen, I want you to believe this. Never.
So they wouldn't listen to me.
That's because they don't care. You don't want them to listen to you. You don't care if they listen to you. You just want to make sure the record is straight. This is your book they talking about. This is your people. This is your history. They teaching you, they open up a book, right? And they telling you about your history. The New Testament was copied from the Old Testament. Shut your darn mouth.
What are they talking about?
You gotta ask some question. Where you get that from? Who taught you that? Who wrote this textbook? How we get it from? Because I got the book. I can have my dad bring the book in here right now. Y'all want to learn some more? Let me tell you something. Y'all want to learn some Old Testament and New Testament? We can get the job done. We can read it right from the book. We don't need the textbook. I happen to ask, can I bring my pop in here? Just ask them the question. It ain't about them to believe. They ain't got to believe nothing. They ain't got to believe a word you say. They ain't got to ever trust a word you say. But it's on the record. Right? When they set up their Christmas lights and all that, you think they worried about, I don't know who's going to believe in Christmas. They don't care nothing about nobody believing in Christmas. You know what they doing? They enjoying their darn self. They living their darn lying truth. Right? We have the same rights they do. Put our stuff out. It's our God. Ain't nothing to shy back from, nothing to be afraid of, nothing. The only reason you might say, if you would have told me, if I asked you the question, why you don't want to say nothing, and you would have told me, I don't want to put no pearls before no pigs. You know what I'm saying? No swine. Then I would have been like, you right. You know what I'm saying? You right. I ain't got nothing to say to that one. But if you talking about, man, there's some good stuff I got here. I ain't just about to put it out in front of anybody. Right? When you have something valuable, Sometimes you don't want to put it in front of somebody. Let me just, you got some V-Bucks, right? That's what you value, right? What is it, VC?
Yes.
What is it, virtual currency?
Better than, well, VC helps you.
VC, you can actually do something with VC, right?
Yeah.
V-Bucks, you can't do nothing with V-Bucks. V-Bucks, the only thing you're going to do is make yourself look different.
No.
Right? You can't get nothing to make the gameplay better. You know what I'm saying? With VC, though, you can buy skills. Now, you know what I'm saying? You can wake up next morning, you cross, you know what I'm saying? Hitting all them things. Get a little bit of VC, that thing different. V-Bucks, you can't do nothing with V-Bucks. So let's say VC, right? You value VC, right? And let's say you got 30.
Yes, you can. You can do something with
You can't do nothing with no V-Bucks.
Build and you have a small pickaxe, it's easier to edit.
Oh, okay, or whatever. So you got 30,000 VC, right? You got 30,000, it's yours. Then Eli walk up and be like, let me spend that VC. What you gonna do?
No.
Why not? Because Eli don't know what he darn doing with the darn VC. He gonna mess around and buy something silly with it, ain't he? Right? There you go. That's the same thing with our religion. We don't want to take what we've been given from the Most High God and just put it in front of anybody who gonna disrespect and not honor the very sanctified thing that the Most High God gave us. Right? I can understand that. If that's our reason for not speaking up and not telling people, that's fine. I just don't want y'all to be afraid or feel like you shouldn't say nothing because people ain't gonna look at you the same. Don't let that be the reason. Right? You know it. You learn it, and if you don't know it, then learn it. Right? But you stand on this stuff. This what we teaching, what we talking about, and not because we teaching it, because it's in the book. Right? This stuff is gonna save our lives. These people gonna tell us that the earth is 400 billion years old. They gonna tell us that. They gonna tell us that if we breathe too much and there's too many cows and we drive too many cars and we don't have electric cars and all this stuff, that the world is gonna end and all this stuff. Meanwhile, they gonna call us crazy for saying, oh yeah, y'all sure gonna come back here and kill all y'all. Burn this whole place up. They gonna call us crazy when we say it. We say that, they call us crazy. You religious nut job. You know what they tell us? They tell us if everybody don't have electric cars by 2030, then the world is going to be covered in black smoke and everything's going to be way hotter. Mm-hmm. Right? For them, that makes sense. For Earth that's been around for 400 billion years, according to them, they feel like next year it's all going to end. And that makes sense. When he tell them, no, the earth only been around for 6 years, and we don't know when that thing gonna end, but it might be next year, and it's gonna be because Yahushua said it, and it's been written in this book all this time. We crazy because of that. I'm cool with them calling us crazy, but I had a right to call you crazy too, because your stuff don't make no darn sense. How you gonna try to tell me it's too many darn cows? The crazy stuff these people say, I love cows. I'll kill one right now, help y'all out. You know what I'm talking about? Give me some darn beef. I solve the darn problem. Send them my way. You know what I'm talking about?
They chilling too. Wait.
You know what I'm saying? Give me a darn cow. I'll save the environment right now. Just send me the cow. Give me some steak, boy. What's wrong with these people? They sit here and they tell these lies. So first question we're going to ask, why in the world are they telling us that the earth is 400 billion years old? This is why it happens. Remember I told you? They don't believe in God, right? So the Most High God tell us how the world was created. Genesis chapter, what, did we get John 8? No. All right, we're going to come back to John 8, chapter 30. This is Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. Watch this.
What, boy?
All right, hold on. Let's answer this question first. Then we're going to hold on to your next question, though.
Chapter 1, verse
We might not even have no Bible study, not no regular one. It's Genesis chapter 1, verse 1.
We're answering questions.
Mm-hmm. Because it's important. Ain't nobody who out here to answer these questions. Ain't nobody answering. There's a lot of people answering questions. But you know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody that you can trust with the book to answer all these questions. They got a lot of great Christian organizations. I'll call them great. They got a lot of great Christian organizations that tear down a lot of the science, right? The science, because science try to present science as if it can only be one way. When really that's against the whole idea of how they created their science. You know what I'm saying? So they try to present it this way. It's like, no, it's not possible at this, that, and other. But you got a lot of Christian scientists that do, they do a good job of tearing this stuff down and showing like, nah, I'm skilled in this field too, and I can show you some different stuff, a different way of looking at it. So in a nutshell, I'm not a scientist, so I'm probably about to butcher a lot of this stuff. But that's all right. They can talk about me on YouTube. We'll figure it out, right? But in a nutshell, what happens is the Most High God tells us exactly how he created the earth. Let's hear about it.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters.
All right, so far, let's try to visualize what we say. I wish I would have this prepared where I can kind of draw some pictures for y'all, right? So let's try to visualize what we just described. In the beginning, what happened?
God created the heaven and the earth.
All right, so in the beginning, the heaven and the earth was created. What's the heaven?
God.
Just the sky, right? So what would scientists call that?
Space.
Space. What else would they call it? Atmosphere, right? So in the beginning, the atmosphere and space, right? And what we consider earth was created, right? But let's see how that atmosphere and earth looked. What's the next line?
And the earth was without form and void.
Right? So void, what does void mean?
Empty.
Empty is usually what void means. The Hebrew word here means worthless, right? It didn't have any value to it. So in other words, it's worthless. It was void. It was empty of vegetation, empty of anything of value. So the earth was just, bleh, right? We're going to learn something else about the earth. Watch this.
And darkness was upon the face of the deep.
What's the deep?
The ocean.
Ocean, water, right? So you had a bunch of water. Earth, the Hebrew word that said earth means land. So he created land, but it was covered with a whole bunch of water. So the whole earth was inside of what? Water, right? So you have water. Let's think of it as a circle, right? Let's just say a sphere of water. Inside of that is the earth, but you can't see that because darkness is on the face of what?
The water.
On the face of the water. So there's darkness on the water, which means you can't see past the water, but underneath that water, there's land. And then outside of that land, there's water. And outside of that water, there's darkness. And outside of that darkness, or within that darkness, is the atmosphere and space, right? Keep going, watch this.
And God said, let there be, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light, and there was light.
So now we had all darkness, right? Because the whole atmosphere was dark because there was no light, right? So there's all darkness, and then in the atmosphere, and then that darkness was on the face of the deep of the water, and then underneath that water was land, right? All darkness. So the Most High God said, you know what? Let there be light. Did he create light? No. Why wouldn't he create light?
He is light.
The Most High God is light. Right? So light was already there. Right? So light was already there. So he said, let there be light. He didn't say he created. If you go back, verse 1, he said he created heaven and the earth. Then he come back and he said, let there be light. So he just called light into the picture. Okay, so there was all darkness, and now he said, let there be light. And watch what he did with the light.
And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night.
Nah, we skipped something.
Okay.
He said, let there be light.
And God saw the light that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness.
Right? So then he took the light and the darkness, and he made them divide. Right? So that means wherever there's light, there's no darkness. Wherever there's darkness, there's no light. Day and night, similar. Right? Watch what he says now.
And the evening and the morning were their first day.
No, skip something again.
And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night.
Day and night, right? So the light he called day, the darkness he called night. And then there was what?
Evening and morning were the first day.
So that's one day, right? Let's look at day 2.
And God said, let there be firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters.
What does firmament mean?
Space.
Firmament means expanse, but space, right? Yeah, it's a separation, right? It's an expanse. It's a space, right? So he said, let there be a firmament where?
And And divide the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so.
So you know how you had land underneath the water, right? He said, let me divide some of this water from the other water. So he took some of that water and he pushed it up into the atmosphere or space, right? And then he put left some of the water to cover the earth. So now we have two sets of waters. Waters in the skies or in the space, and then water that covers the land, right? Keep going.
And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament.
All right, so now there's water over the land, and there's water up in the sky or up in the atmosphere, right? Watch this, keep going.
God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day.
So the firmament was called heaven. What's another way to say heaven?
Sky.
Sky, right? A lot of people think of heaven. What do we think of?
Where God lives.
We think of where God lives. Like, oh, it's probably a place with paved with gold and all this stuff, right? That's what we think of.
God, that's where they go, supposedly.
No. Where do they go when they die?
They go in the ground, but that's what they said.
That's what people think. Yeah, that's right. That's what people think. People think, oh, that's where people go when they die, when they say heaven. But in actuality, heaven just means the area above. It's the same thing we've been talking about. Expanse, space, atmosphere. All that's heaven, right? Everything that's above us is heaven, right? So when we read heaven in the Bible, it's really just saying the place in the sky. The reason why it says heaven and it's talking about God is because it's telling us that God lives so far out beyond in the sky, right? He's so far out there. So it's like God is not dwelling here. He's way up there. So he's way out there somewhere. So that's why people call it heaven. So it would be the same way as saying God's in the sky, right? He's somewhere in the sky, but somewhere in space, right? Somewhere in outer space, somewhere in a different universe or something. It would be the same way as saying that. They just describe everything out there, everything outside, everything past the sky, in the sky, and beyond, they described as heavens, right? You even hear people in the Bible talk about the third heaven, right? That just means the area above that's above that area, right? It's just so far out there, right? So keep going.
And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so.
Right? So he said, let the waters that are under the heavens, under the skies, under the atmosphere, under the universe, right? Let those waters be gathered where?
In one place.
In one place. And what happened?
And let the dry land appear.
So now the land that was underneath all of the water, because all of the water was gathered in one place, and then the land moved out, now it appeared. The land is visible now. So at first you couldn't see the land. Now you can see the land. Now you have another set of water that's above in the sky, right? And you have this expanse, this space. And you have all the atmosphere, right? But we still have light in the day and night, right? Let's see how it works.
And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good.
Okay.
And God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit, after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was so.
Right, so now the earth has grass on it, right? Keep going, watch this.
And the earth brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after its kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself, after his kind, and God saw that it was good.
Okay.
And the evening and the morning were the third day.
It's the third day. Now watch what happened on the fourth day.
And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years.
Right? So what would we say firmament means? Who remembers? We just said, what does firmament mean? What does that mean? Space, right? And then what did we say heaven means? So now let's reread this sentence, and then let's use those words. Instead of firmament, we'll say space, and instead of heavens, we'll say sky, right? Watch this.
And God said, let there be lights in the space of the heaven to divide the day
space
from the
of
night.
The what?
Of the heaven.
Of the sky, right? So let's say it. Let there be
lights in the space of the sky.
Right?
To divide the day from the night, And let them be for signs and for seasons and days and years.
So what's in outer space according to our science? Stars. And what else? Other planets. What else? Atmosphere. What else is in space? I don't know if atmosphere is in space. The moon. What else? The sun. Watch this. Right? So we just said firmament means space. So he said in space, in the skies, let's put lights. Let's see what lights he put.
And God made 2 great lights.
2 great lights. Tell me what these great lights are.
The greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night.
What greater light rules the day?
The cloud. Wait, the sun.
It's the sun.
Because it's all stars.
Okay, and then what lesser light rules the night? The moon, right? All right, keep going. Watch this.
He made the stars also.
Okay, and then he also made the stars, right? So the stars, these people don't know what they're talking about. Stars, a lot of people say stars, you know what I'm saying, and planets and all that stuff. A lot of stuff is,
On a star.
all these things are stars, right? What they looking at, you know what I'm saying? They call them planets. It's just some stars so far away that they can't identify them, and then there's some that are closer where they can see more, so they give them names. But at all these times, they named all the, so all these, what are some of the planets named? Jupiter, Saturn, what else? Venus. You know what those are?
Greek gods.
Greek gods.
All those are Greek, Roman gods.
Roman gods.
Roman gods, right?
Gods have Zeus,
Yeah.
Hades.
And Jupiter is like their Zeus, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. So all or most of them are Roman gods, right? So the reason why they named them after Roman gods is because these people thought stars were gods. So they would look out into the stars and they would think they were gods. Now, as people got more advanced and we got better telescopes and we could see them, we said, okay, there's these shiny things out there that we can't really make out. It's just bright light for us. And these used to be bright light for us, but now with our telescopes, we can see that this is actually like ground and we can see some stuff on it. So they stopped calling them stars and then they began to call them planets, right? But in actuality, with a better telescope, you might find out some of the other stuff is what they call planets too, which they used to call stars. So really, all of it is stars, right? It's all just stars. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're looking at. They don't know what we're dealing with. Some stars is hot, some stars is cold. You don't know what you're dealing with, right? All these things are stars. We'll learn more about stars later, what these stars are. When these people be flying to Mars and all this stuff they're trying to do, they don't know what they're dealing with, right? These people don't know what they're dealing with. So we'll talk about that later. But you had a question? Who had a question? What'd you have?
If we're not Christians, what are we?
What?
If we're not Christians, what are we?
Oh, no. We'll get to that question. We're going to finish answering how old the earth is, right? Keep going. Watch this.
And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and morning were the 4th day. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that has life, and birds that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And God created great whales and every living creature that moves, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind.
Right.
And every winged bird after its kind. And God saw that it was good.
So he made birds and animals of the waters, right? Watch what he made next.
And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the waters and the seas, and let the birds multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the 5th day. And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping things, and beasts of the earth after his kind. And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth after his kind, and cattle for their kind, and everything that creeps upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said, let us make man in our image, after
now,
our likeness.
He made animals that walk on the ground, right? He already made birds and he already made the sea creatures. Then he made the animals that walk on the ground next. And then he said, after that, I'm going to make humans, man, right? Watch this.
And God made the beasts of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creeps upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth. And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree, in the which is the fruit of the tree yielding seed, to you shall it be for meat. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creeps upon the earth, where there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. And God saw everything that he made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day.
All righty. So now, my thing is not working, so I can't even control it from here. So now, let's talk about the age of the earth, right? The whole world, everything was created in 6 days, and then he rested one day, right? So we'll say 7 days, everything was created, right? Scientists don't believe that. Not all of them, but many of the scientists, the ones who write your textbooks, do not believe that. So because they don't believe that, what they have to do is they have to look at the world and they have to say, how in the world did this happen? And so they have what's called theories. That's what science is based off of, right? So let's talk about what is science. Who knows what science is? What does science mean? What is science? I'll let my boy go first. What you got? I already know you're going to say something silly. Go ahead. Mixing stuff up? No, that's not science. Who knows what science is?
A group of people to have theories and tell people information of what they think is going to happen.
That tends to be what happens, but that's not necessarily science. What is science? Do you know?
I think science is basically just trying to figure out how things work.
I think that's a good description of it, right? Science is trying to figure out how things work. How do they go about figuring out how things work? You start with a theory. You start with a theory, and then you experiment.
And then you have to look into it.
And then you observe it. That's very good. What else? And you what? And you reproduce it, right? That's science, right? Science is, let's see if we can come up with a good example. I think Zahar will go to sleep if I punch him in the face.
I think he'll pass out.
I think that he will pass out if I punch him in the face.
He will be knocked out.
Right? He will be knocked out. That's my theory. So the only way for me to prove that would be say, Zahar, come here. Come here. Have him stand right here and give him one right in the kisser. Bah! And if he falls out, guess what? That's a scientific theory that has been validated through experimentation.
And then they start spreading your ideas.
I can observe that. I can test it and say, okay, I know Zahar will fall down and be knocked out when I punch him in the face. Is this true for all human beings? So then I might do a randomized study and I say, T doesn't fall down. So I say, wait a minute, TJ does fall down. So I'll say, okay, all smaller people fall down when I hit them in the face. All larger people don't fall down. Then I might say, well, maybe it's me. So I say, okay, T, you punch Zahar, and Zahar falls down. Okay, T, you punch somebody else big, and another big person falls down, T, too. So you say, okay, all people with larger muscles will be able to push and knock down other people, right? And through experimentation and observation, this is a silly example, right? But through observation, you're able to determine what causes people to fall down and be asleep when they get hit, right? So now you have your theory, your hypothesis, either being proven or disproven. And the way that you prove it and disprove it is by experimenting, observing what you experiment, and reproducing it, right? So that's science. Tell me this. Who can reproduce, observe, and experiment with how the world was created? It's impossible, right? You can't. I can't reproduce creation. To this day, there's no scientist that can reproduce what their theory is that we came from what? Everything came from what? Have they taught y'all that? How did the world get here? How did we get here? They haven't taught you guys that? One day they're going to teach you that we came from something called a Big Bang. Right? The Big Bang is just, there was nothing. The universe didn't exist. Then all of a sudden, what happened?
Like in Marvel where...
Oh, goodness gracious.
I'm trying to think of...
But yeah, no, it's just as, it's a cartoon. Keep going.
Marvel, they're talking about the Infinity Stones where they say at the dawn of the universe...
It was a Big Bang.
Yeah.
And then the Infinity Stones came. So yeah, it's just as fiction as that, right? It's just as fake as that. So what they say is a Big Bang, but that comes from a real scientific theory, right? There's a scientific theory that says there was nothing, then all of a sudden there was a Big Bang. And out of this Big Bang came light. And this light then turned into,
People.
Eventually, right? This light turned into water, and then the water eventually created algae, and then the algae evolved into plants, and then the plants evolved this way and that way, and eventually you get this little frog, and this little frog turns into like somehow a little monkey, and then you see this monkey walking around, the monkey becomes a human.
Oh yeah, they said.
Let me tell you something. The monkey, let them tell it. This is what they used to say. I ain't gonna say this no more out loud, but the monkey became black people, and then after that it became a human, because black people for them, when this theory came out, wasn't human, because we were slaves, right? That's the part of this they're not going to tell y'all now, but this is what they used to teach y'all. That's where all this theory came from. Guess what? Why did they come up with all of this theory?
Because they don't believe in God.
Because they don't believe in God, yes, but also so that they can explain that black people were not humans and therefore could be slaves here in America and other places around the world without feeling guilty. Right? Because nobody feels guilty about having a horse pull a carriage, right? No. Right? Nobody feels guilty about that. You don't feel like you're doing anything wrong to the horse. It's just like, no, this is how I get around. My horse pulls a carriage. However, you strap a black man to that carriage and have him pull it, all of a sudden everybody looks at that like, man, that's out of line. That's a human being. So you know what I got to do? I got to prove to you that he's not a human being. Therefore, you look at him just like a horse. No, he's an animal. We're the evolved form. He's closer to the monkey. Right? That's what these people used to teach. So that's where they get these scientific theories from, right? They have these ideas about stuff that they can't observe, experiment with, or reproduce, and they put it out as if it's fact, right? And then they look at us like we're crazy because we look at a book that's been written for thousands of years that says the same thing for thousands of years, that says in the beginning there was what? There was darkness, but God created the heavens and the earth. And then eventually he said, let there be. So it wasn't that light turned into this and that and eventually somehow turned into rocks and turned into ground and dirt and all these other things that somehow happened all at the same time, but didn't. And now they all rely on each other, but somehow it came from one point where it didn't rely on the other and something grew without, like none of it makes any sense, right? However, they put it out there as if it's fact, and they tell you that. The only way they can try to justify that mechanism happening, they need time, because they know they can't observe it, right? In reality, if that really is how the world was created, guess what? We would be observing all types of light turning into rocks and algae and water all the time. We'd be just turning on lights, and we let it sit. We leave this light on long enough. If it was true, we'd leave this light on long enough, and then some algae would start growing on the wall. We go to sleep, we'll wake up, and why is it a puddle dripping from my darn wall? Then we leave it there because we ain't gonna clean that up yet. All of a sudden, where did the little darn monkey come from? All of a sudden, that monkey just turned into a black person. Like, what's going on, brother? Let them tell. If you let them tell it, that's what it would happen. But they know that we're not observing that. So you know what they have to say? No.
Evolution takes billions.
It doesn't happen overnight. Takes billions and billions of years.
We haven't even been on this earth for maybe years.
And that's the point. They're saying you may never see it because the span of time that this stuff takes, I mean, nobody's ever going to live that long.
It's a great way to cover up your lie.
It's a great way to cover up a lie. In reality, it's what the books say. They say we crazy for believing the book. I say they crazy for not believing it. I say they crazy for coming up with all these theories that they can't prove, observe, test, or do anything with. They just jumping it out and expect us to believe it. Why? Because they said it? Yep. You know what they tell us when we believe this? Y'all just gonna believe something that a man wrote?
But yeah.
The white man.
Some of the silly folks will say the white man. Guess who really wrote this up? Guess what Grandpa Kenny don't know? His people wrote it. He don't know that though because white people have taught us that they haven't taught us about our history. They took our history from us. They don't know that this is our history. Our people wrote this. Long, thousands of years ago, our people put together. Black people, just like us. Right? Living in our land. They took us all out of our land, eventually put us in Africa, then grabbed us from Africa and brought us all the way over here. All right? So then Grandpa Kenny was raised by people who was raised by slaves who were then indoctrinated by white Christians. Yep. So that takes us to your question after we answer his question. What you got?
No, when my history teacher told us we were related to apes.
That's messed up.
Yeah, that's what they believe. Why did she say that? Did she explain why?
Well, she said something about like how...
Did she say DNA?
Yes.
What did she say about the DNA?
She said something about the DNA and the way they walk and look like humans.
Mm-hmm. Ask your teacher about the DNA of a banana.
Why? Because monkeys eat bananas all the time?
It seems like that makes sense, right? Just ask her. Just say, what does the DNA of a banana have to do with a human? Unless she probably won't even know, right? But in reality, the DNA of a banana is just about as close to a human as a monkey is.
Monkey don't look like no darn human to me, but whatever.
Some of these white folks do look like little monkeys. You know, they got because you know the monkey got them tight lips. Mm-hmm. And white folks be having tight lips. You catch it coming like the dude on Angel in the outfield. Mr. Knox, we're waiting on the field. We're waiting. Y'all remember him? Y'all remember dude on Angel in the outfield?
The announcer that was kind of like rude.
No, the little twerpy guy.
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? Mr. Knox, we're waiting on the field. You know what I'm saying? You remember him when you see him. When you look at him, he kind of look like a monkey. You don't like no darn monkey, boy. You know that's what they used to tell us, though. They used to tell black people they look like monkeys. They used to call black people monkeys. Again, that was because they wanted to make us that we weren't human. That way they can justify whooping us on our back and making us work for them for free without doing no money. All right, they still want to make people do that type of stuff. Right? That's why we don't need to compare ourselves to no monkey. You don't get in people the satisfaction. You know what I'm saying? Evil people. Evil people do some stuff. But let's get back to your question now, right? So white Christians indoctrinated us because they were indoctrinated and told lies, right? So in the same way, we have to ask ourselves questions. The question, if we are not Christians then, because that's all we know when it comes to reading the Bible, right? Only thing we know is Christians. So if we are Catholics, which are Christians still, right? So if we are not Christians, what are we? Is the question. How do we find out that question? How? The book. We have to go off of what the book tells us. So we're going to go to a couple places. This is John chapter 8, verse 30.
31.
31?
Yeah.
This is John chapter 8, verse 31.
Then said Yahshua to those Jews which believed on him, if you continue in my word, then are you my disciples indeed.
So what are we? If we continue in Yahshua's word, we are disciples. Did he say Christians?
No.
Did he say Hebrews?
No.
Did he say Israelites?
No.
Did he say Hebrew Israelites?
No.
Did he say Muslims?
No.
Did he say Catholics?
No.
Did he say Protestants?
No.
Did he say Presbyterians?
No.
Did he say Pentecostals?
No.
Did he say Lutherans? Did he say Methodists?
No.
He said what?
Did he say Mormon?
Oh, he said, disciples.
He said, my disciples. So what are we? If somebody say, what religion are you? Of who?
God. Yahshua.
Yahushua. Right? And why do we say that? Are we saying that because Philip told you to say that?
No.
We're saying that why?
Because the book said it.
That's what the book say. Let me tell you something. These people can't tell you nothing if you got what the book say. Especially if they try to say they believe it. They look at this the same stuff we just read. They look at this same stuff.
And this has been happening for years.
And somehow, you know what they pull out of it?
Chapter 8.
You know what? I'm going to call myself a Seventh-day Adventist. They look at all this good book. They get done reading it. They walk away from it and call themselves something that they didn't read one lick of.
Remember when we flipped to a random page and I kept having to flip to random pages because they keep telling lies, saying like, oh, when I woke up this morning, the book was open.
That's right.
The book was open. My window was closed.
That's right. That's what happened. Truth is, window was open. It was a windy darn night. You know what I'm saying? It was blowing the book pages all over the place. And every time you looked at that thing, it was something that hit you in your chest. You're like, oh, no, that can't be talking about me. You know what I'm saying? That can't be talking about me. He said, Lord will give you 7 play even there. They ain't got nothing to do with me, Lord. You know what I'm saying? Go to the next page. I'm close my eyes. Turn that thing again. Because that's what happened. They tell these lies. People just want to feel good, right? But it's not a place for feeling good, right? Book is not meant to feel good. Help me out. Somebody find me Jeremiah like a fire. What is it? Jeremiah. I want to say it's Jeremiah
30,
Found Jeremiah.
28. I don't know. I find it.
Found
Hold on.
Jeremiah.
Chapter 25.
I feel like you might be right. It's somewhere over there. It's like 20 something, right?
Yeah.
I just said 25 because that's what
Maybe it ain't 20 because 25, but
I
27 is taking us to Babylon. The prophecy 28, I think,
years
is
of captivity.
a correction. It might be in the 30s.
The cup of God's wrath.
What's that? 27?
That's 25.
25? Cup of God's wrath is 25?
Verse 15. 26 is Jeremiah threatened with death.
No.
28 is the false prophet.
No, yeah, I know 28 then.
27
I gotta
Judah
cheat.
to serve Nebuchadnezzar.
Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah, I got to cheat.
It's a long prophecy about false prophets, but it's not 27 or 28.
Restoration of Israel is 30. A letter to the exile.
That is Jeremiah 23, 29.
Jeremiah.
It's Jeremiah chapter 23. Watch the book say. 29, yeah, because it's deep in there. It's Jeremiah chapter 23 verse, do I want 29? Let me see. Tell me where I should start. It's Jeremiah chapter 23. Give me verse. And Daniel, while we looking for this, find for me. I should know this one, but I don't. Find for me. You got it's probably gonna be Matthew, but it's gonna be broken or ground to powder. You know what I'm saying? Find that for me. Watch this. This is
20.
This is Jeremiah chapter 23.
The righteous branch. That's what the
23, 23.
This is Jeremiah chapter 23, verse 23. Watch the book say.
Am I a God at hand, says the Lord, and not a God afar off?
Right?
Can any hide himself in secret places that I shall not see him? Says the Lord. Do not I fill heaven and earth, says the Lord?
He's saying, he's asking a question, series of questions, basically explaining, you can't get away from me. Right? You can't get by. You can't trick me. Nobody gets away from me is what he's trying to say, right? Watch this. Keep going.
I have heard what the prophet said.
He said, I heard what the prophet said. That do what?
Prophesy lies in my
They be telling these lies. He said, I heard the prophets, and they be telling lies. We got a lot of Christian prophets, a lot of Catholic prophets, a lot of Seventh-day Adventist prophets, a lot of darn Mormon prophets. You know what the Mormons say? Mormon started with, what's the guy's name? Joseph Smith. Wasn't he? You know what he called himself?
Prophet.
A prophet. Look, Seventh-day Adventists started, I forget the person who started them, but you know what they call themselves? It might have been a woman even. A prophet. A prophet, supposedly, right, according to what the books say, a prophet is somebody who hears from God by a vision or a dream. All right? And then they take that vision or dream and they tell people, this is what God said. Right? God showed me a mountain and it was overflowing with water. Right? but then the water turned into fire when it got to the bottom of the mountain. So people have to look at that like, man, I don't know what that means, right? But you would say this to a king, right? You would say this to a nation of people, to the president is kind of how we look at it now, right? You would be saying this and be like, America is just a volcano ready to erupt, because that's what God showed us, right? What do you think America's gonna do when you say that?
Not believe.
They ain't gonna believe you. They're gonna be mad at you for wasting their time. They might put you in jail for disrespecting the president. They might call you a terrorist. They might do a whole bunch of stuff. And that's what happened to the prophets. But there were also what's called false prophets that would tell lies. And they'd say, well, God told me. God told me everything gonna be okay. God told me you gonna get $1 million. And that's what you hear pastors say. When you go to church, you listen to these pastors, they get to telling you stuff like that. And God has a plan for your life. And he gonna take you. I mean, you started in a very small place. Look to your neighbor and say, I started small. But after that, you grew.
Y'all don't even appreciate what's happening. Y'all don't even.
Yeah, y'all never even been to church. Well, you might have been to church, right? But y'all in general never even been to church, and y'all ain't even have to deal with this stuff. We grew up on this stuff.
Yeah.
We grew up on people telling us lies, and we believed them because it felt good, it looked good, it seemed right. We trusted these men. They older men, we trusted them. Some of them was women, and we trusted them, right? And everybody said, God love you no matter what.
That is a lie.
It's a lie. The book don't say it, right? We can't go past what the book says. The book don't say it. I don't care if God love everybody. Let me tell you, do you think that hurts me at all if God loved everybody? Not at all. Book don't say it. I can't say it because the book don't say it. It's a lie because the book don't say it. If he loved everybody, I'll be the first one to say it. If the book said it, book just don't say it. Right? So we look at this, and the Most High God is laying out, he's saying, these people can't run from me, they are liars. And that's the same thing we're dealing with now, a bunch of liars, right? Let's hear about it. Keep going.
I have heard what the prophets said. I have heard what the prophets said that prophesy lies in my name, saying, I have dreamed, I have dreamed.
Right? He said, I heard what the prophets said. They prophesy lies in my name. They telling y'all they ain't dreamed nothing. Watch this.
How long shall this be in the heart of the prophets that prophesy lies?
Uh-huh.
Yes, they are prophets of the deceit of their own heart.
That's right.
Which think to cause my people to forget my name by their dreams, which they tell every man to his neighbor, as their fathers have forgotten my name for Baal. The prophet that
Listen to what he just said. What's Yahushua? I mean, what's the Most High's name? God. Yah. Yahuwah is his name, right? When have y'all ever heard somebody call God Yahuwah? Never. What do they call him? What's all the names that people call God? They call him Jesus. What else? We call him Messiah, but what else? Jehovah. What else? God. What else? Lord. What else? Sometimes some people call him Yahweh. They hit him with the Yah. Oh, they think they fancy when they do that. Well, Yahweh. You know what I'm saying? Try to put a little fancy. Yahweh. You know what I'm saying? Try to put a little fancy on there. No. You know what I'm saying? And what happens? We forgot the man's name. We don't even know his name. Because these people have taught us to forget his name. This is what he's talking about right here. Even Yahushua. Yahushua's name is Yahushua. What we call him? Jesus. Some people call him Hey Darn Seuss. Right? What do? We forgot his name. This is all this prophesying. Right? We forgot his name. Watch this. Keep going.
The prophet that has a dream, let him tell a dream.
Uh-huh.
And he that has my word, let him speak my word faithfully.
You know what he just told us? He just told us, I'm going to let this stuff run. He said, the prophet that has a dream, air quotes, right? The prophet that say he got a dream, let him tell his dream. Most High God didn't say, I'm going to stop him. He said, I'm going to let this stuff run. But the prophet who have my word, let him speak it faithfully. In other words, when I give you a word, you say exactly what I told you to say. Right? So now that's where we are now. We have people who have the word, of the Most High God, that prophets, all this stuff that's written, it came to prophets. So they spoke it faithfully. It was written down, and now we have the word to look at and to trust, and we repeat the word. Meanwhile, there's false prophets that say they have a dream from the Most High God, and then they teach it, and it's not true. And based off of that, they create a whole new religion, or they create different denominations of Christianity and all these things that are lies. And both of them are happening at the same time. And so it's our job to decipher what's real versus what's fake. And I'm going to show y'all how to do that in a second. Watch this.
What is the chaff to the wheat, says Yahuwah.
He said, what is the chaff to the wheat? What's chaff? Think of chaff as...
dust blowing in the wind.
Yeah, chaff. Think of chaff as the part... I'm trying to think of a good example. So
corn, you got corn, you take the green part off, and you throw it away.
That's right.
You keep the corn, right? You keep the corn, but the green part you just throw away.
That's what chaff was. You would usually take chaff, which is you have wheat, and you break pieces off of it to get to the part of the wheat that you want to get to, so you can make your flour, or make your bread, or make your whatever you want to make.
Like a sunflower seed.
But there's a piece of it like a sunflower seed. That's a better example. You break down the sunflower seed, and what you do with the rest of it?
Spit it out.
You spit it out. Goes into the trash. Well, with chaff, we used to burn the chaff. All right, because we didn't want a whole bunch of chaff laying around, so we just put it in our fires, because we all needed fire. So we put it in our fires. Now we got a good fire. We can get warm, right? And eat good food, right? Keep going. Watch this. He said, what is the wheat to the chaff? So it's something valuable, something that is not valuable. So when you set the two aside, when you have the false prophet, when you have a prophet that's telling lies, that's saying that God is speaking to them, but he's really not speaking to them, that's saying that they speak in God's word and teaching God's word, but they're really not teaching God's word, up against somebody who is teaching God's word, or up against somebody who has a true prophecy from the Most High God and is saying it faithfully. He's saying it is wheat versus chaff. Anybody who chooses something that's not valuable, it's going to be on them. Right? Watch this. Keep going.
Is not my word like as a fire?
Is not my word like a what?
Fire, says the Lord.
These people sit in churches and they want to be told what makes them feel good. They want to be told what encourages them. Those are Christians. Because a Christian doesn't have a standard. There's nothing in the book that'll tell you what a Christian has to do, what a Christian will do. There's no promise in the book about what a Christian will get from God. None of that is there, right? So because of that, a Christian doesn't have a standard. A Christian technically can do whatever they want to do. Now, Christians make their own rules, right? So if you go to one Christian church, they may say, no, you can't do that. And you go to another Christian church and they say, yeah, you can do that. Because Christians make their own rules. Yeah, this Christian church that'll say do it this way, this Christian church that'll do it that way. And the only reason they're able to do that is because their teaching is the chaff. Right? It's worthless. So they can come up and they can say whatever they want. Us, on the other hand, when we go by the book, we don't have no wiggle room. We know exactly what the book says. Right? When the book tells us, that's what it is. So for us, the word doesn't necessarily feel good. It doesn't always encourage us. Sometimes, you know what the word feels like? Fire. It burns. It hurts. You read the word, and it's telling you, if you cuss, you're going to hell. If you lie, you're going to hell. Right? It's telling you, don't celebrate these people holidays. So then guess what that make us feel? We get out there with our friends, you know what I'm saying? Guess what? Everybody cussing. All right, I cuss. Then you hear a word and it tell you cuss, you going to hell. How that make you feel? Ooh, that's bad. Sad, scared, ashamed. Right? It's like, oh, I want to celebrate these people's stuff. But guess what?
Everybody else celebrating.
My whole family's celebrating it. I'm the only one not celebrating it. How'd that make you feel?
Upset.
Upset, left out. right? Guess what your family gonna say if you don't want to celebrate it?
You in a cult.
You in a cult. Why you being so difficult? It ain't even about all that. It's just about family. So you doing it, right? How that make you feel? All right, I mean, well, maybe. And then you hear that, and then you read the word and tell you ain't supposed to be doing it. Then like, the word ain't encouraging for us. It don't make us feel good. You know what it is? It's like fire. Thing burn, it hurt. Keep going, watch this.
And like a hammer that breaks the rock.
Start back at the fire.
Is not my word like as a fire, says the Lord, and like a hammer that breaks the rock in pieces.
That's what the word is for us. It's painful. It's like fire that burns. Or like a hammer that breaks a rock. We sit in these darn churches, and there's nothing that happens in there that looks like anything we read in the book. When was the last time you went to church and it felt like a darn fire? Felt like somebody was breaking you apart with a rock? Never gonna happen. Every time you go in there, you're gonna be like, you know what? That was a good word from Pastor today. I mean, I just feel like I'm gonna make $1 million next week. Lying butts. Come back saying broke butt next week. Sitting there, no darn money, just giving it away to these darn pastors. I ain't got no problem giving it away to the pastor as long as he teach you the truth. Boy, teach you a darn lie, you shouldn't pay him a darn dime. You shouldn't even give him your darn time. I'll tell you something, you'd be better off sitting in your house by yourself reading the book than you would sitting around these liars. Sitting around these darn hypocrites. Somebody messaged me and they're telling me, they're like, well, you know, I still go to the church. I mean, I look at your videos. I look at your videos now, bro. You know what I'm saying? We do, talkttoyall.com. That's why I live there, brother. I'm like, okay, for sure. But I still go to the church because God called us to fellowship. I was like, nah, he called you to set yourself apart, brother. That's what he called you to do. He called you to fellowship with the people that's up fellowship. Them people ain't fellowshipping with God. What you over there for? You know they lying.
You know they lying.
You came to me because you know they lying. You watch my video because you know you ain't getting nothing from them. You be better off. I don't care about you watching my video outside of I know I'm telling the truth and you deserve to have the truth. But outside of that, I don't care nothing about it. If it was somebody else that was telling the truth, I'll tell you to watch that video if you don't want to watch mine. I don't care nothing about that part. Only thing I'm saying is, don't hang out with them. You numbing yourself down.
Yep.
Sit in your room, read the book, watch my videos, watch anybody else who happen to be telling the truth. And if it happened, let me look at the camera. If it happened to be anybody else telling the truth, please tell me about it, because I just ain't seen them. I just haven't. I can't lie. I ain't about to sit here and tell no lie. I ain't about to tell no lies. I ain't about to pretend. I personally, not saying they ain't out there. I'm saying I haven't seen them. I'm just playing too. Don't send me nobody, because now y'all going, you know what I'm saying? Oh, no, you should check this brother. No, I ain't checking nobody out. I'm going to tell you the truth. I ain't really looking for nobody to tell the truth in it. You know what I'm saying? If I run across them, I hope you telling the truth. But everybody I run across, they telling lies.
Yep.
Sometimes big lies, sometimes small lies. But a lot of them just telling lies.
Yeah, it's true.
Right? That's why we're not Christians. Book calls us to be disciples. Let me show you something else. It's Matthew chapter 13. You find what I was looking for?
Yep.
It's Matthew chapter 13. Give me verse 1. Let me just show y'all why we're not Christians.
Matthew chapter 13.
Who knows what a Christian is? What does Christian mean?
I don't know.
A follower of God.
Say it out loud, real loud.
A follower of God.
And very, very specifically, a follower of Christ is what it means. Follower of Christ, right? That's what Christian means, right? This is Matthew chapter 13, verse 1. Watch what the book has to say, right? These people will teach us everything except what the truth of the book says. Nothing in this book resembles what they trying to get us to believe. You never find anything in the book that say God has unconditional love for everybody. You never find anything in the book that say it don't matter what you do. You never find anything in the book that say any of these denominations, whether it's Seventh-day Adventist, Methodist, Pentecostal, Church of Christ, all these different rat hole religions. You'll never find any of them in the book. Nevertheless, these people continuously present this stuff as if it's the truth of God and make us feel crazy because we don't go along with the stuff they go with. Look, it's nothing wrong with the people. The people are deceived. A lot of times people feel like I'm attacking them. I don't know you. I'm not attacking you. Right? I'm attacking what you're in. I know a whole bunch of Christians. My whole family full of Christians. I love them to darn death. I don't care nothing about the people in a negative sense. When I say I don't care, I'm not at the people in a negative sense. What I'm at is what y'all in. Y'all have been lied to. I was lied to the same thing. Most High God just saw fit that He'll open my eyes when I look into the book. Right? And that's what my job is now. My job is then to present to you the truth of the book. Now from there, you make your decision. You choose your side after that. Watch this. It's Matthew chapter 13, verse 1. Melody, what it mean now? Christian?
Christian means a follower of Christ.
What it mean? So a Christian is a follower of Christ. Matthew chapter 13, verse 1. Watch this.
The same day went Yahushua out of the house and sat by the seaside. And great multitudes were gathered together unto him, so that he went into a ship and sat.
There's a great multitude that did what?
Gathered together unto him.
What does that mean?
Like came
A
to
big group around him.
What does that mean they were doing there?
They're watching him.
Watching him, but they were coming towards him. So what does that mean they're doing? Praising him. What else? I mean, if I start walking this way and everybody come after me, what are they doing?
Following you.
They following me. So who are we talking about here? They call him Christ, right? We talking about the Messiah. And they call him the Christ, right? So right now you have a great multitude, which is another way of saying a whole lot of people that are doing what?
following Christ.
So we have a great multitude, whole lot of people that are following Christ. That makes them by definition what?
Christian.
Christians. We're reading about Christians right now. All right? So it's Matthew chapter 13, verse 1. We just saw a bunch of Christians darn looking for this man in the darn boat. He in the boat. What happened next?
And the whole multitude stood on the shore.
Uh-huh.
And he spake many things unto them in parables, saying, Behold, a sword went forth to sow.
All right. So he spoke many things to him in what?
A parable.
In a parable. So there's Christians who are following Christ, right? Great multitude of them. They found him in a boat. The man started talking, and he only talked to him in what?
Parable.
In a parable. What's a parable?
You should know.
Poem is, but
Some poems are parables, right? A parable is like a mysterious saying,
A riddle almost.
right? So you have something, you're taking something and you're comparing it to another one. It's just a saying, right? So look at the first parable, and let's see if we can get an idea of what a parable is.
Behold, a sword went forth to sow. And
A
when
sower, that means somebody who plants plants, right? So a farmer, right? Good word. So a farmer went out to farm, right? Keep going,
And when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside.
right?
And-
So when he farmed, some of the seeds that he had, they fell on the street, right? Keep going.
And the birds came and ate them up.
And then the birds came and ate up his seed. So now Yahushua, Jesus, right? They Christ, is just telling a story, right? We have no idea what he's talking about. He's just telling us a story. A farmer, okay, he went out and he dropped some seeds on the street, okay. And then a bird came and ate the seeds. Okay, let's hear about it.
Some fell upon stony places where they had not much earth, and forthwith they sprung up because they had no deepness of earth.
Right? He said some of them, they fell on some stony places, on some stones.
Like rocks.
And they started to grow, right? But then they didn't grow too far because they couldn't take root because they was growing in rocks. It's like you see out here, you see them little weeds that come up, but they don't last long, right? Because they don't have the proper soil, right? Keep going, watch this.
And when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away.
Uh-huh.
And some fell on thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them.
Uh-huh.
But others fell on good ground and brought forth fruit, some 100, some 60, and some 30-fold.
So now Yahushua just told that story. What does that mean to you? What is he talking about?
Talk about like how plants got planted.
Well, kind of.
Go.
When you follow the righteous, you grow and you get saved. But when you go on a dark path, you die or choke up, like how the seed did like how the thorn did to the seed.
How do you know that?
I don't know. I just read it and thought about it. I read it when you guys stopped. I kept reading it.
Okay, keep going. Watch this. You right, by the way.
And the disciples came and said unto him, why do you speak to them in parables?
So the disciples came. So now we got how many groups right now? Who are our characters in this story? Not talking about the farmers, right? You got the Christians who are followers of Christ that followed him to the boat. That's one group. So let's say Christians is one group. The next group is who? The disciples. And they all after Yahushua, Jesus, right? Yahushua. So now you have Christians and disciples. The Christians he spoke to in what? In parables, right? The disciples came to Yahushua and said what? Why are you talking to them in parables? Right? Let's see.
And he answered and said unto them, because it is given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. But
he said it's given to who?
You.
Who is the you in this? We have two groups, Christians and we have disciples. When he said you, who was he talking to? So he said it's given to disciples to what?
To know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven.
So let's stop. We ask ourselves, if we are not Christians, then what are we? We answered that question. We're what?
Disciples.
And how did we learn that we were disciples? Because I made it up?
No, because it's in the book.
So in the book, Yahushua said, if you continue in my word, you are my disciples indeed, right? We come back, and the disciples came up to Yahushua and asked him, why do you talk to the Christians in parables? He came back and he said, because it's given to you as a disciple to know the mysteries. But what?
But to them it is not given.
But to them it is not given. Why are we calling ourselves Christians? Keep going, watch this.
Because it is, sorry.
What the book say?
Whosoever has to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever has not, from him shall be taken away even what he has.
Tell me why you want to be a Christian. The man just told you, these people that just following me, these ones that's just following me, they ain't supposed to know this stuff. Matter of fact, you have it, and more gonna be given to you, and they don't have it, and even what they have gonna be taken away from them. Keep going, watch this. These are Christians, well-meaning people. These are not people that I'm out here, I'm trying to shoot people up, I'm trying to kill people. These are individuals that literally are following after Christ, trying to learn from him. The man stood up and he spoke to him in riddles. The disciples is like, you know what I'm saying? You be explaining stuff to us. Why you keep talking to him in riddles like that? Then he told the disciples, oh, it's given to you to know. You're a disciple. You're supposed to know. Not them. Well, let's hear what else he said. Watch this.
Therefore I speak to them in parables, because seeing they see not.
Look, I speak to them in parables because they think they know. They think that was about a farmer. But guess what? They don't see. They think they saw what I was talking about, but guess what? They really don't see. So seeing they see not, what?
In hearing they hear not.
They thought they understood what I was talking about, but guess what? They didn't. Right? Okay.
Neither do they understand.
Okay.
And in them is fulfilled the prophecy by Isaiah, which says, by hearing you shall hear and shall not understand, and seeing you shall see and not perceive. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them. But blessed are your ears, for they see. Eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For verily I say unto you that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see the things which you see and have not seen them, and to hear those things which you hear and have not heard them. Hear therefore the parable of the sower.
Hold on. So now He's about to explain the riddle that he said to the Christians. He's explaining that riddle to who? Did he explain it to the Christians? He waited for the disciples. Give me Mark chapter 4. Help me out here. Somebody got to scan through it. Help me out. I want to say verse. What's the last verse in Mark chapter 4? What number is the last one?
Oh, what?
The last verse is 41.
41? Give me like 29. What 29 say?
But when the fruit is brought forth immediately,
No, that ain't it. 25?
for he that has to him shall be given, and he that has not.
Give
to him shall be
me where it should say expounded all things or expounded to disciples he expounded or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Matthew, right?
No, Mark. Should be Mark chapter 4.
I know you like hold it with your finger like Matthew.
Oh, no, you can let Matthew go.
34.
34? Mm-hmm. What else say first? 29? I wasn't that far off, I guess. This is Mark chapter 4, verse 34. Watch the book say. 34, that thing ain't ring a bell.
33.
33? It's Mark chapter 4, verse 33. Watch the book say.
And with many such parables he spake, in many such parables spake he the word unto them as they were able to hear it.
Talking about the Christians. To them, as they were able to hear it. He spoke parables to the Christians. Watch this.
But without a parable he spake not unto them.
He didn't, look, it said without a parable. So in other words, the only way he spoke to the Christians is by parables, right? Parables have to get it in this riddle. They never can just give it flat out. They get it in a riddle, right? The Christians, that is, right? But watch this.
But without a parable he spake not unto them. And when they were alone, he expounded all things.
When they what?
Alone.
So when everybody else left, guess what he did?
Expounded all things to his disciples.
What does expound mean?
Explain.
He thoroughly explained. That's what it means. It means to thoroughly explain something, right? So when they left, when all the Christians is gone, they gone. All right, let me tell y'all what I was talking about when I was talking to them. That is the difference between being a Christian and a disciple. So we asked the next question. We already answered this question, but I'm going to make sure we ask the question to know that we already answered it. The next question should be what? We know that there's a difference now, right? We just read about what does it look like to be a disciple, what does it look like to be a Christian, right? Why we want to be a disciple versus a Christian. What is the next logical question for us?
Why is everybody Christian?
No, that is the next logical question. I'm looking for another question, though.
Why isn't everyone disciple?
Why didn't he explain to the Christian?
That's another good. There's a lot of next logical questions. Okay, let me just put out there the question I'm really looking for. The one I'm looking for is, how do I become a disciple? Right? How do I become a disciple? Because I mean, I've been a Christian, and I know, depending on what church I go to, it don't take nothing to become a Christian. But I'm a Christian. Let's say I'm a Christian in one of them crowds, and I'm following Yahushua, right? And he talking to me in a parable. How in the world do I get a part of this group? You know what I mean? How do I do it? We already answered the question. How do we do it?
If you continue in my word, indeed.
If you continue in my word, then you are my disciple indeed. Grab for me John chapter 7, verse 12. I think that's what I want. John chapter 7, verse 12.
And there was much murmuring of the people concerning him, for he said, he's a good man. Others said, no, he deceives the people.
Keep going.
Howbeit no man spoke openly of him for fear of the Jews. About the middle of the feast, Yahshua went up to the temple to talk.
About the middle of the feast, what did he say? What is that, 13?
14.
14? This is John chapter 7, verse 14. Watch this.
Now about the midst of the feast, Yahshua went up into the temple and taught. And the Jews marveled, saying, how knoweth this man letters, having never learned? And Yahshua answered them and said, my doctrine is not mine, but his that sent me.
He said, my doctrine. You know what doctrine means? Doctrine means teaching. So he's saying the stuff that I teach you is not mine, but it's him that sent me. It's the Father's, right? Keep going. Watch this.
If any man will do his will.
If any man will do his will, who is his in this sentence? This is Yahushua talking. So when Yahushua say, if any man will do his will, who is he talking about? So let's rewind it, right? My teaching is not mine. It is him who sent me. Who sent Yahushua? God, the Father, right? And then he comes back and he says, if anyone will do his will, talking about who? The Father, right? God. So he said, if anyone will do the Father's will, what?
He shall know of the doctrine, whether it be of God or whether I speak of myself.
So you ask yourself, how do I become a disciple? Right? Well, if you do the will of the Father, then it will be revealed to you what is the truth. Right? A lot of people don't know the truth. A lot of people think it's magic, right? It's not magic. A lot of people don't know the truth because their mind is set up to believe lies. Because anytime that you're sinning, right, what you're doing is you're conditioning yourself to live and believe a lie, right? When you're conditioned to live and believe a lie, spiritually, you're not going to accept the truth. So it's not magic. It's just that you're a sinner. So you look into the book and internally, you don't want to see the truth of the book. I'm not talking about consciously. Like you consciously, I'm a Christian. I'm following Yahushua, right? But internally, this subconscious part of you, the part that you can't control, the part that's influencing everything you do, the part you don't even know about, you don't even consider, the part that you be like, I don't know what made me do that. I don't know what made me say that. Right? The part that when you driving, you be like, how did I end up on this street? I missed my turn. Because you listening to music. When you daydream and all that stuff, that part, the part you don't control, the part that's autopilot, the part that have you doing stuff that you can't explain, that part of you don't want to believe the truth. So in your mind, you thinking, yes, I want to believe the truth and I believe in God and I love him so much and I know he loves me and I can't wait to get to church on Sunday and all these different things, right? But internally, there's a whole different force that you don't understand, you don't know nothing about, that's making you do stuff you don't want to do. And guess what? You end up not believing the truth and you think it's reasonable because your conscious brain is telling you it's reasonable not to believe the truth. But your subconscious influence, your spirits that are in you are pushing you to believe those things and to not believe certain things. So you end up not believing the book. And the only way to push those spirits out, the only way to fix that subconscious is to build habits that are consistent with the word of the Most High God. By doing that, now your subconscious, the part that you can't control, is being built. The reason why you drive on that street, right, and you pass those turns is because you take that route so many times and you rarely ever make this left turn. So when you driving, you like, oh, I forgot to make that turn here. I thought I was going to work. Because you go to work every single day. You're so used to being on this freeway, you never get off on this exit. Why would I turn? I'll always go to work. So now there's one day you got to turn, you listen to your music, you jam it, and then you forget to turn because habitually, your habit is to go on that freeway and go to work. It's the exact same thing, except there are spiritual influences involved. Once you condition yourself to have habits that do the right thing, guess what? It pushes those spiritual influences out. Once those spiritual influences are beginning to be pushed out, now when you read the book, those spiritual influences can't push you to not believe what you're reading. So then you start to accept what you're reading. Once you accept what you're reading, guess what? That's better behavior, even more good behavior. And guess what? That's even more of the book now that you understand more. The more behavior, the more of the will of the Father that you do, the more that you will understand if the doctrine is true or not. That's why can't nobody come in here and tell us lies. Can't nobody sit down right here and just say, hey, you know what? No, brother, that's not right. You're supposed to do that. We didn't sit in front of many of people. And they can't tell us lies. Not because we so great. Not because we so darn smart. Quite the opposite. Because we so darn dumb, I'm going to do exactly what the book say. I ain't smart enough to figure this out on my own. I ain't smart enough to guess. I ain't smart enough to theorize. Only thing I'm smart enough to do is look at the book and say, you know what? It hurts. It sucks. I don't like it like that. That means I got to give up a whole lot. But guess what? That's what it darn said. This stuff is real darn simple if you just let it be simple. We ain't Christian because we ain't hypocrites. We ain't liars. And we're not simply following Christ. No. We are disciples. We discipline ourselves to every teaching that the man has given us, even when we don't understand it. I'll walk right into a wall if the word say do it. And guess what? I'm going to trust that either the wall's going to get out my way or me having a big old knot on my head is God's plan. That's it. That's the faith of the Most High God. It looks stupid. Why is you walking into a darn wall, boy? That look darn stupid. And that's exactly how these scientists are looking at us. You believe the world was created in 6 days? That's preposterous. That makes no sense. It takes billions and billions of years to do this. Right? You know why they come up with that? Scientists they might look at a rock, right? They look at this rock and they say,
how old it is.
They say, this rock must be 400 years old.
I had a discussion post about that.
You know how they come up with that? What do they call that when they do that?
What?
How do they come up with the age of the rock?
They would guess a theory.
It's a theory, but it's based off of something that they call carbon dating.
Oh, yeah.
Like how long ago?
Oh, yeah. Remember we watched that video?
Mm-hmm. So carbon dating, they look at molecules within whatever they're looking at. So let's say a rock. They look at the molecules of this rock or this fossil, right? And they say, this rock has this much carbon in it right now. And they measure it again. And they say, okay, a couple whatever time periods later, it has this much carbon in it. So they say, if the rock has this much carbon in it now, but it had this much carbon in it then, the first time I looked at it, there's a difference of carbon of X amount, right? There's a number that's different. So then they take that and they say, okay, well, let's say that was a 5-minute difference. That means every 5 minutes, the carbon increases by X amount. So then they rewind that and they say, okay, let's get to the point where there was 0 carbon. And they say, okay, this rock has to be 400 years old because that's how long it would have taken. At the rate that this carbon is going now, that's how long it would have taken, right? Let me tell y'all why that don't make sense. 1, let them tell it. There's more carbon going out into the air at every moment now because we breathe and we have too many cars. You let them tell it, right? How do you adjust for that? How do you know how much carbon was in the air back 400 years ago? Okay, that's 1, because they don't know that, can't observe it, and you can't reproduce it, right? So that's not real science. 2, here's the second problem with that. When God created the earth, when God created the animals, did he create an adult animal or did he create a baby animal? When he created Adam, we suspect he created Adam as an adult. He didn't describe Adam as a kid. In fact, described him as a man who has a wife, who had babies. Right? So if we look at that and we say, Adam was created as an adult. How do you know the rock wasn't created as an adult? So then the carbon and the age of that rock appears to be 400 years, but maybe that's day 1 for that rock. Just as a 23-year-old Adam, I'm just throwing a number out there, right? A 23-year-old Adam was created on day 1. So if you look at Adam, you say, well, he has a beard, he has hair. Typically, people get a beard and hair after 23 years. He must be 23 years old. But in reality, I just got here today because I was created like this. You can't measure that with science. It's just a guess. So you have no idea when it started. Let's say everything started with carbon in it at the rate of 600 parts per million. I don't know how they, what I'm saying, but let's say it's 600 parts per million, however they measure carbon, right? If everything started with that rate of carbon, when you do your little calculation, You're going to think, oh, man, this rock has been around 400 billion years. But in reality, nah. This rock only been there for 6,000 years. And here's the problem. They do this with rocks and artifacts that they know haven't been around that long, and they come up with that wrong carbon dating. It happens all the time. They don't like to talk about it, but the Christians that be trying to go against the scientists, the Christians be busting their butt out. They be like, oh yeah, what about this study where it found, that the carbon dating on a lockbox that was buried, 50 years ago is actually 1,000 years old. What about that? Nobody want to talk about it. None of it works. All this science stuff, there's nothing wrong with science, right? What we have to understand is there's a difference between science and purely theory. There's a lot of stuff that's just purely theory. And anybody who comes to you with pure theory, they can't say nothing about our book. Our book got more evidence in it than the Earth Earth being 400 billion years old. There's more evidence in our book than us driving too many cars and the world's going to end in 10 years, 20 years. Just know, the same way that they say Christians have been saying, or Bible believers have been saying that the world is going to end for hundreds of years. Just know, those same people have been saying that our contribution to the environment is going to end the world for about 100 years as well. Right? None of this stuff is new. Every couple years, they say the world's going to end if we don't stop doing this, or if we don't stop doing that, the world's going to end. They've been doing the same thing. They can't say nothing about us. They be doing the same stuff. Only difference is we got some real backing that's been around for a long time. They the ones that got to turn themselves from global cooling, saying there's going to be an ice age, to now global warming. And now they don't even want to call it global warming. Guess what they call it now? Climate change. Because guess what? If you call it global cooling and it get too hot, guess what we going to say? You a liar. Right? And you start calling global warming. Guess what? Bunch of hurricanes. It got cold. Guess what? You're a liar. Right? So they say, you know what? We going to solve this problem. It's climate change. Now, whether it get hot or cold, they can be like, look, that's what we're talking about, climate change. Well, I'm pretty sure the climate always changes.
Right.
By way of seasons even, right?
Thank you.
Climate is always going to change. Now you know what they say? No. Climate is not weather.
Okay.
I'm just going to exit out of this conversation because y'all obviously is too darn smart for your own darn good, right? But that's what happens. Sometimes you got to be dumb. You got to be dumb, just look at stuff exactly what it is. Right, Azariah? Y'all got any questions? Any more questions? All right, well, let's pray out. I don't know what time.